XCN Quant and Compound Holders, watch and learn. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name is Neil, where we keep technical analysis short and sweet. Always starting off with Bitcoin, as we are holding above the 200 EMA, trying to hold on this upward trend line, which is very important. However, we have seen in the past history, there's a lot of bear traps right before the bull market, so we could expect even a retracement as far as around 109 is a potential. But I don't believe it's likely. I think we're going to have a little bit of more consolidation, maybe potentially moving underneath this line where you could have a quick sell-off, but there are more Bitcoin being bought than are being mined. So the price will go up even if it goes below this trend line. So it's not too much to worry about, but you see Bitcoin drops 7,000 and the rest of the market starts to tank. IOTX is still trying to hold above that 200 EMA, but we see that it held nicely support on the 618 right here. We got the upward trend line building. We built a higher low, more or less, but this could be retracing back down to this black trend line, and if it does, we could even see a continuation down to 0.25 depending on what Bitcoin is doing. RSI looks pretty healthy though. We just need a little bit of volume and some support off that 200 EMA. Looking at Tornado Cash, if you haven't gotten Tornado Cash, we clearly see that this was an important line at $11 that we needed to cross. We attempted it like 16 times, broke up over, came back down, retested, and then got support with the 200 EMA, pushing it right back up over the 200 EMA, holding support on this upward yellow trend line. But the main thing is that we were over that $11 mark, and now we are trying to stabilize and build support before the next push up. High of 459, currently $11. You can trade it on MEXC, which is in the description below. If you use that reference link, it's greatly appreciated. And Dogecoin holding nicely above the 200 EMA. Volume was picking up a bit. They didn't want to see it sell below this 0.22 area. And if we draw a Fibonacci from the bottom to the top, we see that that is right at the 618 retracement, getting support and pushing back up towards this previous high. So we have a lot of range when you're looking at this area. This is roughly the range that we have to be playing in, and we are on the lower side. So keeping that in mind, you can even do something like the Gaussian fan to make it a little bit more visual. Roughly like that. That's kind of the range that we are looking at, anywhere from the 4-1 up to the 1-1. Pretty wide range. However, we are in between the 2-1 and the 3-1 at the moment. Getting rid of that and moving on to AERO. I brought up AERO right before the pump, right here in this area. If you're on my trading signal channel, you got this entry, and you are currently up at least 50 to 60% on that trade. Came back, retested this downward trend line that we touched right here, got a little bit of retracement and then broke out over it, tested as support. We were trying to build some higher lows. We may have the potential to test it as support once more, which would fill out the CM guppy and then get some major pushment to the upside. So Aerodrome is definitely something to keep an eye on if you miss that 76% pump. Moving into XCN, going to separate it from XRP and XYO and XLM, but XCN doesn't look the best, does it? Let's see, moving out to the daily. This is the same chart I had up before. I got rid of absolutely everything to make it a little bit more, visual to what you guys can see is happening. So we have this low right here, roughly 0.01 more or less, and we have this high at 0.01795. In about 1 to 2 days, it had that major drop in price and then had immediate consolidation for a couple weeks. This is going back in time. So consolidation, push up, and then that deduction. We had that push up way up here to 4. So we'll get into that later, but we're pushing down, consolidation, and then that major push up to roughly this area. this area, 0.05. This was topped out right around here. So I like to post where we have some support and resistance right around that 4049. But what we're looking at is this more bullish pendant. We may come back down and touch this line. We may even drop further into this fair value gap and getting a bunch of sellers to sell off and buyers buying up what they have sold, as we are almost completely oversold in the RSI. We need some more volume, as we are getting a little bit more volume with the sell-off. And almost always when we see a major sell-off, this one was for a long period of time, but we see we have a sell-off here right on December 1st before the new year, and then we had that major pump right into the beginning of the new year, which was 2,000%. So we may get a sell-off and then a major pump after a little bit of consolidation. And what you can really see here is a W, and that is for the win for XCN. Pin link, it's kind of like render, but I've been looking at this one, waiting to see a better entry. It's holding the 200 EMA close. The volume is kind of ridiculous, which is very good for bullish momentum. RSI is healthy. So pin link is definitely something I'm keeping an eye on. I want to see it close and hold above this previous high before entering into that one. Going into compound, then quant. Compound, fair value gap right in between the red lines. And we just want to be building a higher low for that on this green line here. And the fib retracement is right here at the bottom of this gray, which would be the full retracement. And then we could expect for this to start building some consolidation and pushing further upwards. Getting rid of this W. There we go. In the bigger picture, you can clearly see the W is forming, and we are pretty much just waiting for takeoff. When money starts flowing out of Bitcoin, it starts flowing into Ethereum. Ethereum just hit over 4,000 for the first time in years. And then money starts flowing out of Ethereum and flowing into the altcoins, pushing them to a higher point, letting Bitcoin consolidate, and then people entering back into Bitcoin. So compound, if you haven't entered, whenever we had our first entry here back in June, and that's 60% or 30% scalp. And then the retracement, we had another entry above the 200 EMA, and we were hoping to hit the 6-1. That did not happen. Me personally, I had to sell right around here at 52, and then we pushed up over the 200 EMA once again, and a rebuy at 47. And then we tried to break this downward trend line. That did not work. It gave us an opportunity to exit right here, and then it pushed down below the 200 EMA. But that 200 EMA is fire. It is, as you can see, it's stabilizing and it's trying to stay underneath the new lowest or highest low, I guess. But this is the downward trend line that's a little bit more steep. This is the more important one. And so that's kind of my take on that. Forming a wedge, broken over downward trend line, completely oversold, high volume. All these are things that I am looking at with compound. But if you haven't entered, now is a better entry than just a few days ago. So keep that in mind. QNT, oh, and not financial advice, any of this. Always to cover my ass. QNT, what could we see with QNT? If Bitcoin starts to further retrace, it could mean that we're getting more money flooding into like Ethereum and other bigger altcoins, or we could be seeing it flood into this area, which would be more of that bullish momentum. As you see, we crossed underneath the 200 EMA, got up above it, held it as support for a little bit, had a little bit of rejection, obviously with that downward trend line. And then now we're trying to build some support within this area. It does not look the best. We could expect a further retracement down to 97 or even 88. The absolute lowest, obviously, that we'd want to see, even like a flash crash, is 65. I highly doubt that's going to happen. But it is a possibility of hitting that low back here around 89 or 98. We just want to start building higher lows, even if they aren't forming these lines. The way I got this height is taking the inside of this diamond, tracing it to the bottom, and you can expect a push that way. However, if it stays within that pattern, we could start seeing it curve upwards, breaking this downward trend line, and ultimately pushing upwards. This is definitely a long play, but it's not going to zero. It's only going to go up whenever the altcoin season fully kicks in. I believe within the next 2 to 3 months, like quarter of a year, we got until we start seeing some major gains, which then is when you're supposed to be selling off, getting out, and diversifying the portfolio, adjusting what you need to, pay yourself, all that good stuff. That's kind of my view for QNT. We just need to stay within that pattern overall, just holding me personally as well, riding it out. BNT, push up above the dotted red line, got some rejection, and we could also see this pull back further. If it was to maximize the pullback, it could be all the way down to 6498. The absolute low we'd want to see is 55. But that would be pretty much the rest of the market crashing as well. And with all the news that's coming out and the things that US is doing with cryptocurrency reserve, we can only expect everything to start going up here in the next few months. This is a long played out consolidation move, and everything I've been showing you is in the 4 hours, so it looks a little bit more dangerous than the daily, but it's actually a lot more informatic. And so we have this inverse head and shoulders in the bigger picture. We can be pushing up to the 1.31, even the 1.53, but there is definitely a lot of room to go. It's building a lot of support within this area, getting rid of everything. We're just starting to see some higher lows. We need to be breaking above these previous highs, and we'll start to see this take off. We could see something like this happen where it blows through and has a major retracement, but overall consolidate and start pushing upwards yet again, as it has $20 as its all-time high, and it is currently 76 cents. And then real quick, DNT and BNT. DNT is a great example of diversification. If you have money trapped somewhere, any money that you do have, you could be playing something like this, where DNT in 4 hours, you can put in a sell stop anywhere up in here, 14%. This was 21%. And then the next 4 hours, it's back to normal. And then another push to 7%. And then ultimately another 21%. And you sell off just having a sell stop somewhere in this area. So there's 30%. Pushes back down. Maybe you have an entry right whenever you had that reversal point here. And then it had another push up, 23%. So anywhere from 30 to 60% within the past day that you could be scalping with extra money, or you can be doing swing trading. So DNT, once it does stabilize over that 200 EMA, this thing also has a very long way to go moving out into the daily. The 618 is up here at 13 cents, and then breaking that 25 cent as the all-time high. It'll be pretty insane to see what this number goes to. None of this is financial advice, just insight, and trying to hold support on GRT, still forming higher lows more or less, and trying to fill out the inverse head and shoulders, and holding support off that 618 Fibonacci retracement. That's it for this video. I hope you guys learned some stuff. Like and subscribe if you want. References in the description below. Good luck. Have fun with it. I will see you on the XX one.